Hello everybody, Damien from FlowForge here. In today's video, if you watch to the end, what you're going to get out of it is a life playstyle that is specifically tailored to you. Yes, specifically you. And I don't mean that in a blanket term, I mean entirely custom. You're going to have a mental framework for creating a powerful build to get through life and create powerful executive critical hits so that you can get more out of life by doing less. So that's what today's video is about. Let's hop right into it. Life is a lot like a video game. I don't think anybody would argue against this. Growing in skill is like leveling up. You have to connect with people. You have to form parties if you want to get stuff done. And like there's so many correlations between life and video games. And your identity, who you actually are, like the man in the mirror, right, is also like a video game. The goal in life is to basically find your play style and to create your build. And this is something that I am super excited about because I'm the type of person who makes like 800 Skyrim builds. So when you're crafting a unique build and a unique play style that's powerful, this is a fun process. This is like you're figuring out what moves you have at your disposal, what styles of play you have at your disposal. And you're doing this like custom creative work where you're taking all these different aspects of the game and trying to find ways to gel them together in a way that is powerful. And oftentimes there'll be a certain meta. And this is sort of like, you could equate this to generally accepted knowledge, or you can actually equate this probably to wisdom. So it's like you have a general meta of wisdom, right? But being more experimental with your build could provide more value. You could uncover something that is more powerful and more intense than just this meta that everybody is following. And I believe that this is a good way to play life, is to kind of veer from the path a little bit and forge your own path through experimentation. I think you're going to learn a lot more that way. You could trust what's tried and true and works, or you could take the value out of this and add it into your own path. And that's kind of the thing that I see as the most optimal way to live life. ADHD is like being a spellcaster. Like out of all of the different classes in games, a neurotypical is more like a knight. It's like the knight has the sword. The sword is really reliable and it's powerful. And you could see this as like a level of focus, right? And you could also see this as stability. Like they have a certain stability and a level of focus that is very helpful. And it's powerful and it's reliable. And that's what they're good for. They're really great at being reliable and consistent. And that is an absolute virtue, right? Like you need more of that. That's what that's what that neurotype play style is really good at. Now, if you have ADHD, it's more like being a spellcaster. If you think about mage builds in video games, like the thing about Skyrim, right? It's like you're often mixing and matching all these different spells. And, the neurotypical or, the knight might do this as well. Like they have these different buffs and debuffs and potions and spells that they can mix together to create a more powerful playstyle, right? And the mage takes this to an extreme, or this is basically their entire playstyle, is figuring out, how can I mix these variables? How can I mix all these different things to create a synergistic chain reaction effect that is powerful? And this could be an attack on an opponent, which in the game of life, the opponent is resistance. It's the current version of you. And the goal is to slay the current version of you and become someone new. And this is a rebirth, right? This is what you're trying to optimize for, is becoming a brand new person. This is how you actually grow as an individual, is you have to slay resistance. And there's internal resistance, but there's also the resistance of the world. The world can be seen as a sort of type of boss or like an enemy that you have to overcome. And you have all these trials and tribulations, which are like dungeons, right? And you have to have a powerful stack of spells and that have synergistic effects with each other if you want to get through these dungeons cleanly. The interesting thing about mage builds, and this is so true with ADHD as well, is that a mage build is typically starting the game weaker than a consistent like knight build. they have to use mana, and mana runs out pretty easily in the early game. The spells aren't as good as just a reliable like weapon or something, right? And then it takes more skill, not if you're following a meta, but if you're doing it yourself, it probably takes a little bit more skill to use a mage build effectively. But the pattern that I notice is that in all games, having a mage build, they always are able to find, like you're always able to find this point where all the spells and potions mix together in just the right way, and you basically create this sort of critical combo annihilator of like these different factors that you bring together. And this is why having ADHD is awesome, is because you are basically optimized for this. It might be harder for you in the early game, but if you stick with it, and if you find your crit shot spell stack, then you will have like this annihilation chain reaction thing. And then you can just keep making more of these where it's like you know the strategies that work, that chain together, that create these unstoppable effects where it's like everything on the battlefield just gets like obliterated and turned into dust, right? As you're like being healed and all your friends are being buffed at the same time. Like these synergistic effects that are just OP. So this is what ADHD is optimized for. So what is a spell? Like what is the spell in this analogy? Well, a spell is either a skill or a mental framework. So a mindset, which that's mental automation, or a framework like how I'm teaching you right now. This is a framework. This could be considered a spell, a way of looking at the world. But more specifically, I'd say it is a tool. It's a piece of knowledge or understanding or a skill that you have that basically creates this sort of consistent and reliable effect, or is a component that you can mix with something else to create a powerful result. And this is how you create your stack. So for example, right now, I'm mixing like my gamer or gamified life vision with my productivity, and they're sort of mixing and becoming this mental framework of the ADHD spellcaster. And so another spell would be something like the troubleshooting mindset, where it's, life is just identifying the next problem and then having faith that if you just keep studying and trying to take action towards the problem, you will solve the problem. If you just keep doing that indefinitely, you're going to get where you want to go. Like that's all there is to it. But you take these spells and you mix them together. And when you mix them together and you make something that is optimized and powerful, we call that a crit, where it's like a critical hit spell. It's the type of spell that just consistently produces a critical hit. That's how you can think about it. And so you want to be crit maxing. You want to be finding these synergistic ways that ideas connect to create critical outputs. You want to create these crit maximized spells. We're kind of making a luck build here, if is the way you can think about it, where it's like we're trying to mix things in such a way where we always get the critical hits, the highest possible outcome. And that's another thing about spellcasters in video games, is they typically cast environmental things. Like there's a wide selection. Like the variety is kind of the point, but a lot of what they have is basically like environmental buffs or debuffs, where it's like I'm going to cast an aura of healing, or I'm going to create stuff happening in that general direction, right? And so if you tie this to productivity, this is sort of like I'm going to give you a spell here, is the idea of luck. How luck is not random chance. Luck is something that you can manipulate and add to your reality distortion effect. There are places where you know that the likelihood of an outcome that you want are more likely to happen. Where it's like if you get into the right room, if you watch the right content, there's a higher likelihood that you will get an outcome that you desire. So a good step for like if you want something is figure out the area to be standing in where success is automatic. And it might take time, where it's like you want to be in the right place at where the right things happen at the right time. That's the spell of luck. And this is something that you can understand, and you can chain react with other spells. You can chain this with other spells to create critical effects, critmax your spell stack. And now I'm going to give you a play style to go with this. I've made a video on this before. There's a link in the description if you want to watch that one. One of the spells that I love is jigging. And what jigging is this concept. You need to have focus in something for a long time to extract the value out of it. Now, your ADHD brain doesn't like that. And realistically, in reality, there's so many complementary things and so many things work well together and provide value. There's so much value everywhere. You kind of want all of it. And so what you have to do is understand that there's a ratio where you want to focus on something until you get the diminishing returns from it, and then you want to switch to something else. And you can have this on any temporal scale where, for example, let's say you want to get the value out of being chill, and you also want to get the value out of being sort of fiery, amped up, and going out and going for gold, right? Like they both have value in them. And so what you could do is you could focus on being chill for a month. And then you could focus on being fiery and amped up for a week. And this is jigging. It's understanding that there's like a critical mix, like a complementary ratio between things. And this is like a thing in art. There's like a ratio of things coming together in a way that makes what I would call a critical hit, where it's like you get extreme value, but it's complementary enough and it's like supported by something else. And this ratio is basically 75%. It's like 1/4, but 1/4 of that 1/4 is where this line kind of is. So it's like you have the majority of it, and then 1/4 towards the end, and then like 1/4 of that 1/4. And this right here is like the critical point where it's like you want to make the switch. And ideally, you want to make the switch in flow. Like there'll be a point where you know it's time to switch. It'll be a sort of coming together moment. Now, you have this mental framework of having spells, and you are an ADHD spellcaster, and you can mix all these concepts and ideas and skills and things together to create your personal custom spell stack and create your own personal play style. And if you add the spell of jigging to this, where it's like you create a focus on one thing and then jig to another thing, your left, your right, your right, your left. And you kind of get all the value out of all the things, which is what your ADHD brain is really good at. Because remember, you have a problem with managing attention. You're always kind of looking at another concept or another idea. Your brain is just naturally optimized for creativity and unfortunately not consistency. So what you need to do is create just enough consistency to get to this critical point in your jig and then switch over to something else. And you can do this often and create a custom spell stack that's going to help you maximize your critical shots, which is called crit maxing. And from there, you just become like this unstoppable ADHD wizard that just like executes constantly and gets a ton of things done because you want to add productivity into your spell stack. That's huge. Like because you're optimized for this and you're not really optimized for execution, you know that one of your weaknesses is execution. So you actually have to focus longer and harder on execution until you unlock the skill of productivity. So watch my videos. That's what my entire channel is about. And if you want free one-on-one mentorship on how to maximize and optimize your ADHD brain for productivity, go ahead and click the link in the description. These are all the things I help with. Doing less, finishing more, escaping the rat race, starting a business, optimizing your life for your specific flavor of ADHD, reclaiming your mental and digital sovereignty, acquiring skills quickly, putting success on autopilot. And this last one is what we're talking about right now, becoming a neuro wizard, optimizing for your neurotype and creating a powerful personal build that is optimized for crit maxing. All right. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel by watching all the way to the end. If you like this content, go ahead, like and subscribe, juice up the algorithm for me so it reaches more people. Thank you guys so much for watching till the end. Peace.